Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's a working day, so we are going to have a short discussion on social entrepreneurship. But before that, I would like to give an introduction of Sabri Priya Foundation, not just Priya. So, we are a non for profit organization that is an NGO which works for women and children in India. Our main motive is to support the domestically exploited women of our society and to bring about a change in the education sector in India. That's how I introduce myself as well. So I started this organization almost 3.5 years back. But before going on and telling more about myself, I would like to talk about you. I would like to talk about the community, the society we live in, and then I'll complete my introduction by end of the session. Also, I always like if somebody is interacting with me on screen. So if you have any question related to social entrepreneurship, about entrepreneurship, about society, community as a whole, about public policy, then please write it down into the chats. I will be resolving all the queries or the questions along with the discussion. We'll be happy to do that. Okay. So let's begin. The first question that I would like to put forward is pandemic. How do you think that pandemic has brought about a change or a new normal into our economy, our society, our political systems, and in our lives? Do you think that pandemic has taught us many things in the last 3 years? We already know that COVID-19 pandemic has shaken the world, not just India. But India has not been just shaken economically, it's been shaken humanitarianly as well. So, if you talk about the humanitarian crisis, it's there in India right before the pandemic as well. It was there in India for the millions and zillions of years, right? But how do we measure the issues that we have faced in the last 2.5 years during the pandemic? Or do any of us even care about that? We care about it. Why? Because now most of us has either lost somebody in our lives or lost a job, or most of us, or I would say every one of us, have been living into our four-walled rooms for the last 2.5 years. एक वेव आती है, वो कंप्लीट नहीं होती, दूसरी पहली आ जाती है. Hi, so they just greet us time to time in every 6 months. But what are we doing to solve these issues? What are we doing? So, if any of one of you have ever thought about it, that if India has been facing the recession, then what the India or the Indian government or NGOs or private organizations need to take care of? Do we need to inject zillions of funds or dollars into our economy? If yes, then how can we do that? But here we are just talking about finances. What about the inequalities? Those inequalities which have already been there since ages. The vulnerable groups, for example, women, children, and now most of us, we are also a part of the vulnerable group now because we are facing the recession. We are that segment of society that has been hit hard. What about the students who are in schools now and they have no clue what's going to happen after 5 years in their lives? They were not taught to study in a hybrid learning model. Okay. So these are the brainstorming questions which I wanted to keep forward before introducing the concept of social entrepreneurship. See, everybody talks about entrepreneurship. It's about innovation, introducing something new, creative into our economy. And most of us talk about finances, operations, marketing, etc. All right. So this has been for years into our country and I would say in our world. But an eye opener is that are we actually working on our passion? Are we actually making an impact in our society or communities or in the lives of people? And how interesting would it get when we could think about, when we could think about impacting lives along with earning in millions and zillions, right? So whenever I talk about social entrepreneurship, most of you think that it's just about an NGO who raise grants, funds, who get funding from different donors, and then they put money into the market. They use that money to distribute blankets, to give scholarships, etc. But that is a very old version of thinking about impacting lives, right? That is not long lasting. How and why am I saying this? Let's imagine one situation, or let's imagine a story. You are going to a hometown, which is supposedly a village. You see different segment of people there, right? Farmers, women, the self-help groups, children who are playing outside, and the panchayat system. Basic यही होता है, बाकी there are a lot of things which keeps going on over there. But if you keep a lens of entrepreneurship over there and look at them as a story, okay? So there is a family consisting of 5 people, husband, wife, 3 children. Suppose husband dies and the woman is a widow and 3 children were dependent on the father. The woman knows how to weave or how to do pottery or something like that, but she has no idea how to market it. She has no idea how to survive or earn a livelihood for the whole family, but she wants to. That eagerness is there. And you just one day you meet her, she talks about her life that her husband died and she wants her children to be in school and she wants to earn a good livelihood for the whole family. What would you do? How would you feel about it, first of all? So unless you feel about it, you cannot think about it. If you cannot think about it, you cannot work on that. Let's take another example. Farmer. You have seen many agri based industries, factories, businesses. How do they earn? Do they take care of farmers' well-being? Do they provide enough financial assistance to the farmers? अगर ऐसा होता है तो सुसाइड्स क्यों होते हैं? अगर फाइनेंशियल स्ट्रगल है तो क्यों है? This is called critical thinking, okay? That we do on day-to-day basis, right? We always think about why of everything. Why am I interacting with you? Why had I taken this session with all of you? With a purpose, right? There should be a purpose. So there is always a why. And now that we are talking, I'm pretty sure most of you would even not gonna think about it. जो भी हमने बात करी, session ही तो था, खत्म हो गया, बात खत्म. But the why after this session is that whatever we are going to speak or whatever we are speaking for the last 5 to 10 minutes is, are you converting that into your plan of action, or you want to do something for whatever we have been speaking about? Is there any purpose? Okay. So coming back to the imagination, now think about the purpose and the why of that purpose and the output of that purpose, which is really interesting. So when we think about why, you went to a rural area, outskirts. Why did you go? Vacation थी, घूमने गए थे. Then you met people. Okay. Why did you meet people? To interact, to know their story. Why would you like to know the story? This is how the humankind has evolved. We always want to know the stories of different people. Okay, now that we are discussing about them, about their stories, what is the solution that we can provide to improve their lives? But हम solution क्यों provide करें? What would we get out of it? That is the output. Okay, so this is the chain of, or I would say the pattern of thinking which a social entrepreneur follows or adopts in order to become a social entrepreneur, which is a very fancy word. Okay. So social entrepreneurship is always about impacting lives. Social entrepreneurship is always about bringing about a change in the lives of people at the individual level and at a community level. But how could you bring about a change if you do not have that one value, which I'm going to speak about, and which is lacking in most of us? And that is empathy. See, you can enroll any course on Udemy, Coursera, or Harvard Business. There are many platforms. Even free courses are there. आप फाइनेंस सीख लेते हैं, ऑपरेशन सीख लेते हैं, technical skills, you can learn these kind of skills easily nowadays. But empathy is not just a skill, it's a value which the pandemic had taught us to have. So if you don't have an empathetic behavior towards you, yourself first, and then your family, and then your peer, and then the community, you cannot even become a, an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a really fancy, again, a very big word. You cannot even become a responsible citizen of a country or human. आप इंसान ही नहीं हो अगर आपके अंदर empathy नहीं है. But if you have empathy, then you can create the stories, you can improve the stories of people's lives. Okay. So I introduced you the concept of social entrepreneurship through this story that we went to a village and talked about the lives of different people and how we can impact that and what is required to, you know, talk to them. That is empathy. But how can we improve our own life by improving the other people's life? It's okay, satisfaction hoti hai job ki. You feel happy when you help somebody. You feel content with your life. Okay, you have done something good. You have made somebody happy and smile. But what about finances? Right? That is also one of the major component for your happiness, isn't it? See, you always come the halfway through if you have sorted a purpose and if you have sorted out the plan of action. But without finance, you cannot really execute it. That's how the entrepreneurs think. Okay. So, as a social entrepreneur, what you can do, you can innovate about a particular issue. You can pitch it to your investors. You can ask the sponsors. You can even ask the donors to fund your project. And then you can work on it for a long term basis. This is how I am working as well. So, people call me an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, public policy expert, etc. But honestly, मैंने कभी सोचा नहीं था ये सब कि I would ever come to these kind of webinars, talk about my life, talk about my XYZ background. No, I never thought about it. But speaking about it, I am proud of what we have done as an organization till now. I am proud of how it made me feel for the last 3 years. And I'm proud of the people working and associated with us. And I'm proud of the investors and the mentors I am also having. And they always tell me, Priya, there is a long way to go, no matter what you achieve. Okay. So, entrepreneur तो आप रहते हैं, आपका प्लान ऑफ एक्शन भी वही होता है, पिच भी होता है, आइडिया भी होता है, इनोवेट भी होता है. देयर इज another, I need to take another session about it, how to be an entrepreneur. But my main motive of today's discussion is how important is for us to think about social entrepreneurship, because that's the future and present and that is needed. Don't you think? We already had a lot of inequalities. Pandemic की वजह से और बढ़ गई है. But if we are not going to bring a solution to it, तो वो inequalities और बढ़ेंगे. Okay. So even if you are an employee, I won't ask you to become an entrepreneur, leave with everything. It's not UPSC, right? You can still teach students from government schools whenever you get time. You can aid, you can give financial aid for their devices. आप उन्हें मोबाइल फोन दीजिए, ऑनलाइन क्लासेस दीजिए. That way you are slowly becoming a social entrepreneur. Okay, that way you are helping somebody. But उसको financial model में भी आप change कर सकते हैं after a while. Okay, so if you have a product ready, if you have a community ready to serve, then even the B2G model works. That is business to government. So there are different models there: B2B, business to government, business to investors, business to customers. That is the technicality of it, by the way. But when you start working on an idea, when you start working on your passion, अपने आप चीजें होती जाती हैं, trust me. That's how it worked out for me. Or it's still working out. Okay. So by this, I really want to emphasize on one thing, that don't wait for the right time Just because you're an employee, you were a student, or be it at any position, don't wait for the right time to help a community or help somebody. There is no right time to do that. Trust me. I don't even get time to do these kind of sessions or to run the NGO because I'm also a working professional and I'm pursuing my higher studies. All right. But you would be able to become entrepreneur if you have sorted one thing out in your mind that let's serve a community, उनके issues समझो आप. After understanding their issues, think about the solution. Then share that solution with your investors, and then you can add the prefix and suffix on your LinkedIn that you are a social entrepreneur or mentor. Okay. So now, if you have any question, if you want to discuss anything similar on those lines, because see, a 15 to 20-minute discussion is seriously very, very less for me to make everyone understand about the technicality and nitty-gritties of social entrepreneurship. So there is a question: what sectors do you think are the most important nowadays? See, nowadays, if you talk about sectors, I think it's education and healthcare, Ankit. Because as a matter of fact, healthcare sector needs a lot of attention, keeping into mind the different variants and the immunity disaster which people are having nowadays. But if you're not real, if you do not have a healthcare background, then you can think about education sector because that is the worst hit sector in India, one of the worst, because students are hopeless, teachers have never been trained on these kind of complexities, hybrid learning models, and etc. So that is again, there's a lot of scope of innovation over there. And on the other hand, gender neutrality. So see, I can even I'm just suggesting you so that you can become my competitor, because working on gender parity and gender neutrality in India is a tough job because of our social fabric and the culture. But this is the issue on which the Sarvapriya Foundation is working on. So that is one of the issue you can work upon. And there are a lot of things I can suggest, but topmost are these three. So Ravi, in my opinion, two most important sectors for a country like India are agriculture and healthcare. Okay. So um, hmm. Somebody asked, do you think too much money is going towards startups that are focusing on population for tier one? Actually, you're right. Because, see, having worked with the incubation center of one of the biggest college in India, this is what I have faced as well. I have been working with the government, Startup India, DPIIT, etc., Government of India. Most of the funding actually goes for the solutions which are worthless, or they are just copying the existing models, or they are just helping the tier one cities in India. So that's where social entrepreneurs come in picture. We work on the models which are into tier 3, tier 4, the rural areas, and such like that. So, but as a matter of fact, it's not just about the government funding. If your model is really working, if your model is something which is groundbreaking, then there are a lot of investors who are ready to help you. And trust me, I would have never approached any investor from my end. They just got to know me and we connected, and now here we are. I mean, I never actually requested anyone to fund my idea or the mm, initiatives in our NGO, because what I believe in is that most of the NGOs actually work on donors model, wherein you ask the donors to fund us and then we'll work. But what I believe in is, until and unless you're providing a product or a service, I'm not just going to ask money irrelevantly or without any reason. Okay. So it should be a transaction, not something else. Okay. So, yes, you can get funding if your model is groundbreaking. Um, so why would they invest if it's not? Oh, this is a really good question. Why would they invest if it's non-profit? Uh, Pratik, you should read about the model of Tata Trust. They are non-profit, but their revenue and expenditure would tell you that they are even earning more than the corporates who are earning in billions. And the reason is, non for profit doesn't mean that they are looking for donors or they are just there for self sufficiency. Non for profit means their greater good is for the society, but they are also looking towards break even point. All right. They are also looking towards not profit but revenue. You can change the terminology here. We can think about revenue, but we cannot think about earning more and more profit, but we can think about earning more and more revenue, injecting back that into the initiative and for the greater good. Okay. All right. Could you expand a little more on this? See, if I start talking about how a non for profit organization earns, then that's going to be a really lengthy session, I would say. But in short, if I summarize that, non for profit, again, I'm repeating one thing, it's not about taking donations. ये हमारी मेंटालिटी बन चुकी है इंडिया में. ओके, ऐसा नहीं होता है कि बिना प्रोडक्ट के बिना सर्विस के सिर्फ आप डोनेशन ले रहे हैं और काम कर रहे हैं. ऐसा होता है बहुत जगह. But then you're not a social entrepreneur. Then you're not doing anything for the innovation of the healthcare or you know, uh, agriculture for women's life. You're not impacting lives. Simple. Okay. So when you talk about non-for-profit, the model is different financially. We use different terminologies. We think about greater good, but yes, we think about revenue as well. So I can give you really good examples wherein mm, they are earning, I would say, earning in crores, and still they are non-for-profits. So you can mail me your query, Pratik, if you want to know more about it. All right. And I think I should arrange a different session for that. Okay. But today's session was more about introducing social entrepreneurship to people, what it requires to be a social entrepreneur as a value, because I wanted to share something from my experience and not what's written over there on Google. You can Google many things. Social entrepreneurship होती क्या है, कैसे बनते हैं, क्यों होता है, किस लिए होता है, examples of it. But that was my experience which I shared today. All right. So that was it. So if you have any other query, you can still write it down or mail us. All right. The another question is that when I pitched my idea to some of people, I said same thing. I want to keep commissions lowest. They said they would an investor multiplying money. So Pratik is asking that he pitched the same idea that he wants to keep the commission low, and then the investors uh, asked that they would want to invest into something wherein they can multiply their money. See, First of all, here I don't know about the idea that you pitched to them, because idea should be qualitative enough for the investor to understand that it's gonna multiply. Okay. आपको मैं एग्जांपल देती हूँ एग्रीकल्चर का ही. So last year I have been interacting with somebody who is from agri base uh, startup, social startup. So what they did, they uh, made it easier for the farmers uh, to manage the supply chain. जो इंटरमीडिएटरी सप्लाई चेन मैनेज करते थे, उन्होंने फार्मर्स के लिए इजी कर दिया वाया इंट्रोड्यूसिंग एन ऐप, अ बेसिक ऐप टू देम. अब वो ऐप, व्हेन you introduce an application, that too which is helping farmers, and our country is, majority if we talk about, is agri base country economy. So the investors actually invested into that idea, and then after 1 year they multiplied their money as well. क्योंकि first of all उनका purpose था, which is solving the real issue. Second, when you introduce an application, there are multiple ways you can earn money through that. Okay. So this is just an example. और ये social startup भी था because they helped the farmers community, not one farmer. Okay. So that is there. You need to pitch to your investor in that way कि उन्हें लगे that this is the oxygen, मतलब इसके बिना चलेगा नहीं, इसकी बहुत जरूरत है मार्केट में. Okay, without oxygen you cannot breathe. So without that idea things won't work. You should be confident enough about that idea first, that should solve a particular issue, and third, you should have that confidence, you and your peers, not just while talking or communicating, confidence with the idea that you're working on. कि आपको ये भी ना हो कि आपको खुद नहीं पता 5 साल बाद आप क्या करने वाले हैं उसके साथ, then that doesn't work. So that's all from my side. But as a 2-minute summary of this session, I hope I was successful in embedding a value in all of you, that you need to have empathy. You need to learn from the mistakes that we have already been making for years. And in order to use fancy words for your LinkedIn or CV, before that, introspect yourself, पर्पस ढूंढो, उस पर्पस के लिए काम करो, वो टैग्स अपने आप लग जाते हैं, एंड बी डाउन टू अर्थ. दैट्स ऑल. सो stay happy. In any other query or issue, just mail us at cyberpriya.foundation@gmail.com. And you can also connect with us on LinkedIn. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been lovely speaking with you all. Great. So thanks, Prateek, Za, and Vignesh. I don't know what ZA is, by the way. All right. Bye-bye. Have a great day ahead.